I've been a money coach for about 8 years now, and I see four common mistakes that people make frequently when it comes to money. Number one is people allow their emotions to just have way too much power over their money. The second mistake that people make is they avoid a very basic yet powerful practice with their money, and I'll tell you more about what that is. The third mistake is letting old money beliefs dictate your current situation. And the fourth mistake that I see very often is most people don't even have a short or a long-term money plan. And that's a big mistake. So let's dive into all of those mistakes and tell you how you can avoid them on today's episode of Sisternomics. Hey girl, hey, it's Monique Carradine Kitchens. Thank you so much for joining me. This is episode 14 of Sisternomics. If by chance this is your first time joining us, Sisternomics is a podcast for women of color entrepreneurs who really want to get to their next level in their money. I'm just like you. I want to get to my next level as well. I've set a big goal of hitting $1 million in revenues in my business by April 2021. So for me, the show has two purposes. Number one, it's my accountability platform. And number two, it's a way for me to bring together my most trusted colleagues, friends, mentors, and experts to give tips that you can leverage in your business as well. So as promised, today we're going to talk about the four biggest mistakes that you might be making with your money and how you can avoid them. If you're tired of having the same money problems year after year after year, or maybe you're finally ready to leave your old money ways behind so that you can get to your next level, if you have basically just made the decision that 2020 is the year for you to get your money game tight once and for all, then good for you. You are in the right place. Then in the second half of the podcast, Dr. Maya Rockeymoore-Cummings is going to join us with a wake-up call about what is currently happening with our money and what we should be doing with it instead. So that's coming up a little bit later. But right now, let's jump into the four common money mistakes. As I told you before, I'm a certified money mindset coach. I specialize in helping people create money breakthroughs and really understanding their money DNA so that they, once they have an awareness of what their DNA is and what their current money story is, I give them the tools and the strategies to rewrite that money story so that the story matches who they are today as visionary, bold, amazing leaders. But having helped women around the world redefine their relationship with money, I've noticed that there are common mistakes that keep us back. So let's walk through those four mistakes really, really quickly, and then I'll tell you how you can avoid each one of them. The first mistake, as I mentioned, is sometimes we allow our emotions to have way, way too much power over our money. Now, as women, most of us are, naturally inclined to be more emotional than men. That just goes in any area. But the truth is that even though we're naturally more emotional as human beings, we can't allow those emotions to rule when it comes to money. And sometimes those emotions in our money show up when we may not feel worthy of asking for a raise, or maybe we don't feel confident enough to talk about money or to raise our fees for fear that our clients won't pay. So that's a big mistake. And we in 2020 have got to make a decision that we're no longer going to allow our emotions to rule when it comes to our money. Regardless of how you feel, what you have to look at instead is what are the results that you are able to create for people. And that's not based on feelings. That's based on hardcore metrics, right? Your results, if you know that you have been able to, increase the company's bottom line by 30%, that has nothing to do with your feelings. If you know that you have helped 50 women within a short period of time make a dramatic change in their health or their fitness or whatever the case might be, whatever industry you may be working in, that is a metric. And that has nothing to do with emotions. So it's time for us to be willing to look at what the numbers say and let the numbers speak for themselves and keep the emotions out of it. I'm not saying that we should ignore our emotions. I'm just simply saying that we have to look at what the facts say instead of allowing our emotions to rule. Look at our track record. If you can measure your success through client outcomes or higher productivity, then that evidence should take precedence over your emotions. Does that make sense? Okay, let me move to the next one. The second biggest mistake that we make when it comes to money is we avoid a very basic yet powerful practice that I call money maintenance. And what do I mean by that? Money maintenance is just simply the act of reviewing your account statements on a regular basis so that you are keenly aware of how much money is coming into your business and how much money is going out. How much money is coming into your personal bank account and how much money is going out. And of the money that's going out, what is it going towards? I mean, if you really look at your expenses and do a real audit and get totally honest with yourself, how much of that money can you not spend on that thing? Fill in the blank, whatever it is. How much money can you keep if you just cancel some of those subscriptions or eliminate some of those recurring debits that are automatically taken out of your account for a service that you may not even use on a regular basis? And again, let's go back to those of you who are in business. Do you know who owes you money? Do you know what outstanding invoices there are? How do you monitor and track your fees, income and expenses, your profits, your losses? Some of the women that I've worked with find this practice of monitoring your money or maintaining your money, they find it dull, boring, sometimes even dreadful. And so they avoid it. And what I'm saying to you is that is a big mistake, especially if you are trying to scale a business or if you're trying to turn your side hustle into your full-time hustle. You've got to be disciplined enough and have the courage to sit down and monitor your money. Doing this means that you've got to sit down and look at your money. You've got to establish a true relationship with your money. My commitment for 2020 personally is to sit down every Monday and Friday and take some time with the books and just look at where are the outstanding invoices, who owes money, what invoices need to be created, what proposals need to be sent out. You can't scale a business if you are not paying attention to your money. It's just like a relationship. If you're in a relationship and you're not paying attention to your man, guess what he's going to do? He's going to leave you. So make a commitment to establish a solid relationship with your money and it will grow. The third biggest mistake that I see a lot of people making, and again, for me, this is an area that I constantly have to work on. I'm a lot better than I was before a few years ago. But for me, this is a part of my journey. I have to constantly do this work. And that is letting go of old money beliefs. Letting go of old money beliefs and deciding that you're no longer going to let the old money beliefs dictate your current situation. Let me explain a little bit more of what I mean by that. And this is where the crux of my work comes in as a money mindset coach. You see, typically, we start to become aware of our family's relationship with money right around the time we are about 5 years old, sometimes younger. But usually around 5 years old, we have an awareness of the energy of money in our homes, right? Maybe you have an awareness that money is tight. Maybe you have awareness that money is abundant, but there may be some people in the household that are not as responsible with it. Or maybe you've noticed at that age that there are commonly fights or disagreements about money. Whatever your story is, it became ingrained in you around the age of 5, give or take. So what you heard your parents or loved ones say about money is deeply ingrained in your psyche. And those thoughts and ideas literally become a part of what I call your money DNA, also known as your money story. So fast forward, you quickly become an adult. You know how fast time flies, and you're independent and you're making money on your own. And here's the truth. Unless you have intentionally done the work to update your money story, you might still be making decisions based on what your 5-year-old self learned about money. You might still be making decisions based on how your 5-year-old self felt whenever the issue of money came up in your home. So the question is, and it's really deep work. I mean, if you really think about it, you take a moment, this is where Tears come up and emotions come up during my coaching sessions with people, but it's okay because I like to create a safe space for those feelings to come up. But the question is, how long are you willing to allow the 5-year-old you to be in charge of your current money experience? You're letting the 5-year-old you control your money and you're 35? Like that doesn't make any sense. So if you recognize that some of your feelings, thoughts, beliefs, emotions come from how you experience money as a child, or if you recognize that maybe your mother's or grandmother's beliefs about money are keeping you struggling around money, stressed about money, or broke, then it's time to check in with yourself and rewrite your money story and make sure your money beliefs match the person that you are today. So one of the practices that I give to my clients is I have them write a money power statement. And this statement affirms the vision that they have for their money, but it also affirms who they are today. And because I work with amazing women who are talented, gifted, hardworking, visionary, they're change agents in the world. I make sure that as I help them craft their money statement, that statement affirms all those amazing things about who they are in the world. And then the next step is holding them accountable to taking immediate action toward confirming and affirming the truth about that statement that they just created. Man, it's so powerful. This work, and it's mind-blowing how when people rewrite that story and they come up with this statement, how it immediately gives them this boost of energy. And it's like, yes, now I can go ahead and set my goals around the statement that I just created. And it motivates you. It's inspiring. It really lights a fire under you. It's really important not to let the old money beliefs dictate your current situation. So that's how you overcome that mistake. Rewriting your money story, reprogramming your money DNA. And I encourage everybody to do that. You got to do your work. We all have to do our work. And like I said, for me, I'm constantly on the journey. And you also can constantly rewrite your story. Once a year, you may need to revisit your money story and your money power statement and say, hey, it's time for me to update that. I highly encourage it. All right. So here's the fourth and final mistake that people make. And that is not having a short or long-term money goal. This is the time of year, as you guys know, when we should all take a moment to look ahead and just set some goals, not just money goals, but any kind of goal. But as it relates to your money, those goals should be focused on what you want to earn, what you want to save and invest, what you want to give, and what debts you want to pay off. You should also focus some time thinking about how you want to feel as you do the work that you do and as you attract the type of compensation that you deserve. So, what are those numbers for you this year? What do you want to earn? How much do you want to save and invest? How much do you want to give and share with people in the world? And what are the debts that you want to make sure you get paid off in the next 12 months? Write those numbers down, put them someplace where you can review them daily. And if that gets you excited thinking about those numbers, then I encourage you to look ahead a bit further, maybe 3 to 5 years. Go ahead and look out 3 to 5 years and then set some longer term goals. Because what happens is those goals will then help you establish an action plan and help you stay focused on your journey toward building wealth. And 10 years from now, sis, oh my goodness. If you do this work today, 10 years from now, forget that, even 2 years from now, you'll be very, very glad that you did. Because when you have that vision, what does the Bible say? Write the vision and make it plain so that those who can see it will run with it. Honey, you better go look that up in the Bible. That in itself will motivate you. When you have the vision written down, then you know what you're working towards. And when you know what you're working towards, it's harder for distractions to stand in your way. All right, so those are the 4 mistakes people commonly make. I have made all of these mistakes, so I know full well it takes work to get back on track. And hopefully the solutions that I've recommended for you will help you. But I'm curious to know which one of these mistakes resonate with you. And what aspect of your money do you plan to focus on this year? Go to the Facebook page and find the topic about the 4 mistakes that we make about money. Find the little promo image about this topic and leave your feedback there. And I look forward to engaging with you on any of the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Been hanging out a lot there lately, thanks to the LinkedIn professor who was on one of the earlier episodes. You should check her out, by the way, episode 11, I believe it was. All right, so let's switch gears here. I want to introduce you to Dr. Maya Rockeymoore-Cummings, and she's got a lot of great wisdom to share with us in the next segment. But before we jump into that, I want to let you know that I have something free to share with you. Yes, it is the top 10 list for creating total financial power. I've created this list that you can download and you can hang on your wall. You could study it. You can apply the tips however you want to do it. But I created this list because in 2020, I want us to experience total financial power. And the way you gain power is by avoiding the mistakes that we just talked about and also doing the things that are on this top 10 list. It's a really fun list. It is something that you can share with your friends. All you guys have to do is go to Sisternomics.net. Sisternomics.net and leave your name and email address. And what will happen is you will instantly be able to download the top 10 list. So go to Sisternomics.net right now, Sisternomics.net, Sisternomics.net, and the top 10 list for total financial power will be available for you to download immediately. Once again, that's Sisternomics.net. Go grab that now. All righty, so let me have your ears for just a few more minutes as I give you the knowledge and wisdom of a sister that you need to know if you don't already. Her name is Dr. Maya Rockeymoore-Cummings, and she's been in the news a lot lately for several reasons. First of all, she is the former chair of the Democratic Party of the state of Maryland. She is also the widow of the late great Congressman Elijah Cummings, who just recently passed away. She is currently running to replace her late husband for that congressional seat. And she also just recently had a double mastectomy. So she's got a lot going on in her life, but managing the push forward anyway. In addition to all that, she is also the head of her own political consultancy, where she does a lot of research and political strategy and advocacy. And she's got just an amazing body of work out there. I really encourage you to Google her. And I interviewed her about 2 years ago. So this interview has never been heard, and I want to share it with you today because when I first became aware of Dr. Maya, she had been featured in an article in Forbes magazine, and she was talking about the topic of Black women and wealth. And she drew an analogy between the disparities that Black women face compared to everybody else. And she said that it is as if Black women have been hit by a Category 5 hurricane when it comes to our money and our wealth. Like we have been wiped out compared to white women. And I'm not into comparisons, but just for the sake of what she said in this article, she said white women who are single with no children under the age of, I believe, 35, have a net worth on the median of $15,000. Black women of that same age group have a net worth of zero. I mean, zero. So ladies, when it comes to wealth, this is why I keep harping on this. When it comes to money and wealth, we are in a state of emergency. So 2 years ago, I reached out to Dr. Maya. She agreed to allow me to record our conversation. And today, for the first time ever, I'm going to share some snippets of that conversation with you, because I believe that the information that she gives us is sobering, and hopefully it will really make us get truly serious about changing the trajectory of our wealth so that we can start to really make plans to create a legacy of wealth so our children don't have to struggle, so our families won't have to worry about how they're going to pay our debts and pay for our kids' education. If God forbid something should happen to us, sooner than later, hopefully you'll live a long life, but you never know, right? I really want us to begin to think of those things and really change the future so that not only our children can be okay, but our grandkids and our great grandkids. Like we can plan and do the work now so that they will be okay. So, with that said, let me go ahead and introduce you to Dr. Maya. The first question that I asked her was just straightforward, blunt, direct. And the answer that she gave me, as I said, was sobering. So take a listen. Here she is, a woman that I want you to know, Dr. Maya Rockeymoore-Cummings. And this is from a conversation we had a couple of years ago. Listen. So when I say the phrase women of color and wealth, what immediately comes up for you?
Fabulous, but broke. Fabulous, but broke. I mean, we look good. We smell good. Our hair looks great. We've got the latest purse on our arms and the latest shoes, but our bank accounts are redlining.
How did this happen, Dr. Maya?
So, it's really easy to say, okay, your spending habits determine your brokenness, but that would be only telling a very small part of the story. We live in the United States of America, and we have a history of structural racism, classism, and sexism in this country. And frankly, the fact of the matter is that many African Americans come out of a tradition of slavery, where we had nothing. In fact, we were considered the tools of wealth for other people. And that history has gone on to lend itself to codified discrimination that's been codified in U.S. law that has kept us marginalized on the at the margins of the U.S. economy. And so today, while we have advancements and historic opportunities for achievement, many of us don't come from a history of much wealth. And wealth is cumulative. It builds for many families over generations. And because African Americans come from families that have not had generational wealth, we already start off from behind. So that means that when you arrive at modern day, and many of us, maybe we've gone out and we've gotten our education, we get our first good job, people of color, African Americans specifically, come from families that don't have wealth in their networks. And so everybody sees you got a good job and people are asking to borrow some money that never gets repaid. We want to look and smell good and have the latest and greatest. And so, we're spending. And so while the issues of spending and savings are very important, there is a context to that is even more important. And that context is structural racism and classism that has kept our families behind. So, we looked at this, and we have a fact sheet on our webpage, the wealth gap for women of color. And the last statistics we looked at were in 2007, and it showed that white women have a median wealth of $45,000, and African American women, on the other hand, had a median wealth of $100.
Wow.
Now, $45,000 versus $100. And many of our households have actually negative wealth, meaning that we owe more than we own and that we're in debt. And so we have a big challenge, and savings is a huge part of that.
What does that mean? When you say wealth, it's the assets, it's what we own, it's et cetera.
It's assets. So we're not talking income here. Income is what you bring in to, through your job, your earnings. But what you do with that income matters. If you, use that income to build retirement savings or create a savings account or have a money market account or create a business or purchase real estate, then you have assets. You've turned that income into assets that you own. And assets are important because assets can actually build and grow your wealth. You can actually accumulate wealth from having those assets. And so, unfortunately, what we find is too many women are actually spending what they accumulate in earnings, meaning that as the money comes in, they're actually spending it. They're spending it on the rent or the mortgage. They're spending it on the car payment. They're spending it on this and that. There was a study done by Brandeis University, Tom Shapiro of Brandeis University, that looked at why the racial wealth gap exists. And what he found is that spending habits is at the actually very bottom of the list. The top three issues facing the disparities that we see in wealth between whites and blacks have to do with our home ownership experience, that whites get more favorable terms and actually purchase homes in neighborhoods where the value of their properties accumulate more. The other one has to do with the disparate impact of our labor market experiences, meaning that we actually structurally there are wage gaps, racial wage gaps, with whites earning more than African Americans, even similarly situated, similarly educated African Americans. The third one had to do with the disparate impact of our education. There is a not the same return on investment or return on investment in terms of our education. African Americans who are college educated have the earnings of a high school educated white man.
Wow.
And so we have to understand that there are these disparities, and education doesn't always bring us the return on investment. But the fourth one that he mentioned is the issue of inheritance. That whites are much more likely than African Americans to already start out ahead with assets that are passed down through their family, the familial relationships. And so when we're talking about structure matters. History matters and structure matters. And the fact of the matter is that people of color, African Americans, start off, we're born behind.
So, like, it's so much juicy stuff and everything that she just said that I don't even know where to begin. But let's just pick up on the last thing that Dr. Maya talked about, which is, the fact that we need to make sure we have inheritances set up, because that's one of the reasons why we fall behind in terms of wealth. So have you ever really thought about the type of inheritance that you want to leave your children? Is this something that you can put on your agenda of things to think about and work on for the new year? I think it will be worth it. Okay, so let's round out the conversation with Dr. Maya Rockeymoore-Cummings. And in this last section, she gives us some tips on some areas that she thinks we need to focus on to change this whole scenario around so that we are literally cultivating a legacy of wealth for ourselves and our families.
Retirement is so incredibly important. It's the first thing we should be thinking about when we enter the work world, but it's often the last thing that we think about. When we work in jobs that actually offer you retirement savings accounts, like 401ks or 403bs, African Americans tend to be less likely to take advantage of it, even if the employer is offering a match, which is essentially free money. We're also, if we do open up that retirement account, we tend to actually draw down from it and borrow from it without replacing the money at higher rates. And so we are least likely to have adequate retirement savings, and that is reflected in terms of what happens when we retire. The numbers actually show that, we don't have other assets to rely on. And as a result, we have a very heavy reliance on Social Security as almost the sole source of income in our retirement. And so it's alarming, because Social Security is not, what you would be used to. It will not help you maintain your pre-retirement living standards. It is structured to be something that should be augmented by personal savings and by other retirement savings. And yet too many of us use it as their only form of retirement savings. So my first piece of advice would be to educate your listeners to, if your employer is providing a retirement plan, take advantage of it. Not only do you should take advantage of it, you should forget the money. Don't act like it's a piggy bank. Just forget that it exists and know that it's for your future, not for your present. Also, I think that it's important for us to actually have a plan for wealth building. So what do I mean by that? And notice I didn't say just a plan for savings. I think that we need to be thinking expansively, and more women, and especially African American women, are thinking about how to create businesses and how to purchase homes that they can build equity in, and how they can invest the equity in their homes and other interest-bearing types of opportunities or other opportunities that can help build more wealth. Those are the kinds of strategies we need to be thinking about, things that are going to help us to expand our assets and not only build enough wealth so that we can live on, but so that we can actually have wealth to pass down to future generations.
Yeah. What will happen in our families and our communities if we don't take those steps, if we don't make this wealth building thing a priority?
It will continue to be the same that we've always been, which is broken on the margins of the economy. There was a study that was done that, oh gosh, I wish I had the stat right in front of me. But basically, if, it will take more than 100 years for us to catch up to white people in terms of their wealth status, if we were just to start, have them stay in place.
Wow.
And so what we need to do is, think differently. We need to stop being primary consumers. And the marketing is great. They're really kind of trying to get us to part with our dollars just as soon as we get them. But we need to resist, and we need to be thinking about family wealth portfolios that can sustain us and our families, not just in our lifetimes, but over time.
Okay, so can we all take one big collective deep breath after that? I don't know, maybe I'm just a geek or a nerd about this money thing and this wealth building thing, but she just set me free. Like, this is a whole masterclass, all in and of itself. She rounds out our conversation today, Dr. Maya Rockeymoore-Cummings, by talking about a family wealth portfolio. Raise your hand if you and your family have one. Okay, I see a couple hands up out there in the audience, but not many, not as many as there should be. So ladies, all right, it's just me and you. Nobody else is around. Can we all make a commitment that in 2020, we will sit our little selves down and create family wealth portfolios? Can we do that? I promise I will do my part. I will give you as many tools and resources as I possibly can. I've been doing it for years, but if I need to take that thing up a notch, I will do that because this is important. Everything that we want and desire can be made available to us if we have the money. Now, I'm not saying money is everything. I'm not saying that we need to focus all of our energy on creating it. I'm just simply saying that it's time for us to become more thoughtful about it, more strategic with it, and that we make a decision to end the struggle with money that is like a generational curse once and for all. So can we commit to that? What are you willing to do to set up your family's wealth portfolio if you haven't already done so? What are you really willing to do to change the wealth situation? I'll be providing you with tools and resources every single episode of this podcast. I'm going to do my job. Your job is to put those tools and resources to work. All right. I'm going to wrap up here. I'm excited. I want to go create something right now, something that's going to help you. So I think I'll go ahead and do that. Meanwhile, what are you going to do? How are you going to build a legacy of wealth for your kids? We'll continue this conversation. In the meantime, I thank you so much for listening. Go and grab that top 10 list so that you can gain total financial power. You can grab that at sisternomics.net. My name is Monique Carradine. It has been my pleasure to spend time with you today. I'll see you next time on Sisternomics.